Hello, and welcome to another World of UX podcast. This is your host, Darren Hood. Thanks for taking the time to join us on today. A special welcome, as always, to those of you joining us for the very first time. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. As part of a staggered celebration of the 5th anniversary of the show, today we're going back to, I was going to say this is an Ask Me Anything session, but we're going to say this is a fireside chat mixed with Ask Me Anything session, and I've got a couple guests. I love having guests on the show. I have no idea which direction we're going to go, but we're just going to talk about UX at large. People are going to bring up topics. We're all going to chime in. So let's go ahead and dive in really quickly, shall we? We're going to not waste any time here. And the first thing I'm going to do is introduce my first guest for this episode. Someone who has been on the show before. Glad to have him back. Welcome, everybody. Susi, welcome. Lou.
Nice to see everyone
again on the show. Lou, go ahead and give your little intro for everybody and let folks know who you are. Everybody might not be familiar with you. So
okay, all right, sure. So I am Lou Susi, obviously, right? You've just introduced me, and I've been doing UX since around 1999 or so. Back then, maybe less UX oriented, more just general design, graphic design. Probably more officially transitioning into UX roles probably by early 2000s. And I've worked pretty much anywhere and everywhere, probably in Massachusetts. So anywhere I tried by, I go, okay, I've interviewed there and I've worked there. And, but I've worked all sorts of sizes and different types of companies as far as verticals go, from startup to large scale. My most recent full-time gig was at NetScout, for cybersecurity software design and development. We had a small team there of about 5 people. And right now I'm flying solo, or as I like to call it, I'm happily unjobbed. And I take on independent consulting work, and I've been teaching interaction design principles at Northeastern University. So it's been good, but I'm ramping up both sides, consulting and education, and continue to also look for work. But I think it's hard to just go directly for the gigs. I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of different advice. We'll probably talk through some of it tonight. Who knows?
Yes, I'm expecting that too. Yes. All right. So we're glad to have Lou on the show again. And our second guest, also not a first timer, but someone I absolutely have a ball interacting with this person on LinkedIn on a regular basis. So it's always a treat to be able to interact like this face to face. So our second guest for today's show, Yaddy, Arroyo.
And this is not for me, it's for you, because I'm so excited to talk to you. I am a big fan. I can't say where I work. I just work at I work at a place that employs me full time, and they don't want me to talk.
They don't want you to talk?
To talk publicly. So I'm just not going to say where I work, and hopefully no one will be embarrassed. Other than that, though, I've been doing AI UX for a while. So that's kind of my specialty right now.
Nice.
Especially given what's going on, which ironically, I did not say Gen AI. I said AI. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. But yeah, no, so I've been doing it. I've been doing UX since 2006. Mm-hmm. And maybe before then, if you count the unpaid jobs that I do, right? Because it's always like, oh, I could do the website.
It counts.
Yeah, it counts. I think counts. And shoot, man, I've been working since I was 14. Not good, though, because I did not know the UX principles. But yeah, that's why I listen to your show, because a lot of the stuff you say is classic stuff. It doesn't matter if it's AI UX. It's the same process.
Yes, it is.
Maybe the difference, the triple diamond, when we have to think in systems. But other than that, right? Like critical thinking. I would say that's what we're missing, Darren. And that's what I want to hear from you, right? Your thoughts on the lack of critical thinking nowadays, because that scares me. Yep. We're going to be here for 5 hours.
The fire just started to burn a little brighter.
I know, right? I'm like, I'm supposed to keep it cool. Never mind.
No, that was cool.
No, it is great. But I look forward to this. I always love these conversations. And something that I had said on a recent episode, I grow weary of doing this show by myself. I just think that when you when you bring other people into the conversation, there's always that unpredictability. And to be able to talk about something at the drop of a hat, I think, to me, I think it's a challenge. I think that it's important to be able to do it. And I think that it holds an element of surprise for the listeners. Because I don't know what we're going to talk about. But when you know your stuff, you can.
Yeah.
You can. And that's a demonstration. That's for people who don't understand that. That's one of the things we're demonstrating by doing it, because if somebody brings something up, if somebody brings something up and we don't have anything to say or don't know anything about it, guess what I'm going to say? I don't know. Because nobody should be afraid to say what they don't know. Yeah, nobody should be afraid to say that. But I do enjoy these conversations. These are great. We're going to have 2 segments. I'm going to mention that now. So we're going to do one, and then we're going to end, and we're going to start again. But we want to be able to just be free to just talk about whatever, to dive right in, and we're going to have a ball doing it, as always. So let us go ahead and jump in, and Yaddy gets the start. So,
oh my God. Okay, I've been wanting to ask you this, and I'm sorry if it's controversial, but you've heard of the AI first thing a lot of people are doing, right?
No, I haven't heard about that. Wow.
I want to hear your opinions on that, because to me that's like saying pencils first. And I stole that from Ovetta Sampson, and she's like, "What is this? Like pencils first?" I was like, "You go, girl." But yeah, I kind of think it's silly as well. Like AI,
it is.
It's like saying internet first or Wi-Fi first, right? It's like, okay, AI is a technology. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
I think that a lot of had the right word on the tip of my tongue, it almost went away. Hype-oriented practices are common in UX today. Somebody hears something, somebody jumps on the bandwagon, and the next thing you know, like you see the Jacob Nielsen article about AI and how we need to work on our careers, and we need to either get AI under our belt or we're going to become irrelevant in 5 years, is what he said. And if you read that article, and I'm going to back up for a moment, I said about a year ago that I do strongly believe that many of the Jacob Nielsen articles that are out there are actually ghostwritten. Because I've been reading stuff that this guy wrote dating back to 1993.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was actually talking about this with a bunch of UXers just earlier today. I've been reading his stuff since 1993. I have been the part of Jacob Nielsen's background that I dove into more than anything else was, and both of you are going to probably, this will ring a bell with you, useit.com. You remember that website? That old Jacob Nielsen site that was all about the content and not about the look and the feel. It was about that you could, because back in the day when you were trying to learn, you would find the people who knew the most. Yep. And man, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, you would just embed yourself in this stuff because you wanted to be your absolute best. Being qualified. What a novel idea. That's not something people do these days. They just want the job, the check. They don't want to be qualified. And so we would read this stuff. But my point is, I learned unknowingly, I became extremely accustomed to his voice and tone. I knew how he talked. I knew what he talked about. I knew what he stressed importance on. And when I read these UX Tigers articles, a lot of them don't sound like him at all. Including that one about AI, because it's like part of the article, it's like he's saying you don't need to know the fundamentals. Since when is Jacob Nielsen going to tell you that you don't need to know the fundamentals about the discipline? And long story short, for the listeners today, if you want to work with AI, if you want to master it, if you want to optimize your engagement with AI, guess what you need to know? The fundamentals. Because if you don't know the fundamentals, what? AI is not going to fill those gaps. How are you? And one of the reasons why I have continued to try to find ways to incorporate AI into my UX work, and I really can't. And on top of the fact that I don't need a crutch. Because a lot of times a tool is nothing more than a crutch. If a person is using a tool for the sake of using a tool, the tool is a crutch.
Mhm.
If you're going to walk across the street, but you have full use of your faculties, are you going to get in a wheelchair and go across the street, or are you just going to walk? So it just doesn't make sense. Some people might be angry about that metaphor, but please stop and listen to what I'm saying. AI is not new, number one. It's
Yep.
been around for years.
Decades, yeah.
It has never
Yep.
been hyped the way that it is now. And one of the reasons why people keep saying AI, 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 I was like, yeah, AI, AI, oh.
AIO.
AI, AI, oh.
Yeah.
But
Fab or MLO. Oh, no, LLM. I'm sorry. I did it the backwards way. Machine learning. I don't know.
yeah, but people are pushing AI because of what they're going to get out of it. The people behind AI hype are the people that are profiting from AI.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
if you don't, that's the way hype works. They keep talking about how great that Jacob Nielsen article. I challenge anybody, go and read it, and you will go through and you will hear statement by statement. You'll hear a ton of statements that are all hype oriented. They are made with absolutely no justification, no data. And I love how one person I was talking to about this article said, this article keeps quoting ChatGPT. That's not a citation.
Right.
Huh.
That's not to say that ChatGPT says is not a citation.
That is literally the opposite of citation. It's like
Yeah.
Google search.
And because ChatGPT said it, it's right. The only people that are buying that are the cult of UX participants,
Right.
Yeah.
Kool-Aid drinkers. Because, okay, you said that, where's your proof? But see, critical thinking, and now we go, I said all that to say this. Critical thinking, it's interesting that you ask about the critical thinking part of this, because AI is getting the run that it's getting because people are not using critical thinking. Matter of fact, there's another big article that's out right now where somebody did research and they said that when people depend on AI, they stop using critical thinking. And their ability to reason begins to depreciate. So get the fundamentals under your belt. AI is something that we can use. If you know what you're doing, you're not going to be dependent on AI, right?
If you know what you're doing, you might be faster. I mean,
you will definitely be faster.
Right.
You'll definitely. I love how Dr. Nick says that he can, in his byline on LinkedIn, still doing research better than AI.
Yeah, because they can't.
I love that he says that, because if you know your stuff, you will always be better than AI. And AI will always be a tool like every other tool, which means it is a supplementary factor associated with it. Is not the end all be all. I mean, we didn't have AI in 2008. We didn't fall short of anything. We didn't have AI in 2012. We didn't have AI in 2015 to help with UX work. AI with UX didn't come along until about 2 years ago. It's post-pandemic.
Right.
And have I missed a beat? Have any of you missed a beat before AI and after AI? Have you missed a beat? Did you miss a beat? Man, I sure do wish there was a way for me to do this easier. Said none of us at any time. We did the work. And so it's the same today. Now, can you mine data out of your research fast? Potentially. But you don't know because for me, if I use AI to summarize my research data, then I still have to go back in and make sure that AI didn't have any what they call hallucinations.
Hallucinations. Oh boy.
The hallucinations in AI are quite common. And I constantly say error rates up to 86%. I'm not going to bet my future on a potential 86% error rate. So
AI really needs human interference for it to work well.
It does.
It actually,
That pesky human interference,
interference.
Yeah.
Well, the term is called humans in the loop, but absolutely, and all.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't know that was the term, so I'm glad that we're talking.
But it's absolutely true, which is what kind of like, okay, to your point, you made a lot of really good points. But what about like the lack of critical thinking, right? Like if you never had it, you never will.
Big.
And for you, AI is a way to outsource that. If you never had it, you don't know what you're missing. And let's be honest, if
Yep.
you're someone who just got into the field, your critical thinking skills are not going to be like the ones that's been 30 years. They know the shortcuts. They've
Yep.
seen that this stuff.
Yep.
We don't like. Sometimes I get really annoyed because people want to test the most simplest of thing. When I'm like, dude, this has been already out in forever and validated, and it's in a
Yes.
lot of books. Pick up a book. But that's the problem, right? Like people don't want to like educate themselves. Like it's one thing if you use AI to customize like your own curriculum, right? Like I learned by listening. So creating my own podcast with the information I program. That's awesome, right? Like Notebook LM. But that's not how people are using it, right? They're using it to
Yeah.
kind of like outsource their stuff. So that's why it's kind of like frustrating for me. And I want to know specifically what you think about companies that market themselves this way as AI first. Right? Because to me, it's almost like you're showing us your ass. Like basically, like by you saying stuff like that, you're showing us what you should not be showing everybody else, which is like you're not critically thinking. You're hyping it up. And like, I don't know, only time can tell, right? But Darren, I want to hear from you, sir, because
Yeah, because I didn't really answer that, did I?
specifically. You did answer it. You did answer it. But I want to hear specifically because I think you
Okay.
know which companies I'm talking about, right? Because they
Well-
took out the word UX from their titles. Those are the companies
Oh.
I'm talking. The same
Well,
companies.
you know I
that
was gonna
have
bring-
AI first.
You know I was going to bring that up, right? Those companies.
Thank you.
They're criminals. As far as I'm concerned, I feel about AI first the same way I felt when I heard somebody say mobile first.
Yeah.
Mobile first never made any sense to me. And most of the people that said mobile first, which was a phrase that was coined by Luke Robleski, those people never read Luke's book on mobile first. They never
I read it. I read it, and you know what? I saw him speak on mobile first, and then I read the book, and I realized what he's talking about is mostly from a technical perspective.
Mhm.
You know, optimize your images for mobile first, optimize your layouts for mobile, and actually use the smaller form factor to your advantage so that you could get all the people who are trying to compete for that real estate to just boil everything down to one focused thing. But I've also seen at the UXPA Boston conference this year, Luke came back,
Mhm.
you know, as if it's Star Wars or something, right? And the example he gave for AI and how to use AI was literally him talking about how to create new search paradigms using AI to look through all the content on his website, his personal website. And I kind of thought, wow, how self-referential and kind of lame is that? You know, not just sorry, Luke, but it was a little disappointing. But I did like the graphics and I liked the way the presentation was put together, but I expected it to be deeper, you know, or more future forward, not just how can we solve search for the 5th time or something.
Good point.
But it was funny when I think about the whole mobile first thing, and because we know what people do, almost anything that we say, and we can have the absolute best intentions, we can have the absolute best approach, we can do all the right things the right way, and somebody who heard mobile first actually, and without digesting the actual message, they turn it into a cliche, and the next thing you know is being mishandled. So, and so for years, instead of saying mobile, when I would hear somebody say mobile first I would cringe to myself, and then I would turn around and I would begin to share a different message, the message that was going to actually impact everybody, and that message is mobile also. So he's saying mobile first, but when it comes to doing the work, we must be mobile also, because now people wanted to do everything mobile first. We're going to design our site first. No, we need to design our site knowing that we know what percentages of our users are on mobile. We know how long they spend time on mobile. So let's just be mobile also, so that your design is not exclusionary. And that's the gospel that I preached about design. But people are doing the same thing now. So they say today, when companies, and when companies say AI first, they're trying to feed the beast because everybody is a AI. So when it's the new shiny thing, but here's the problem: if you say AI because you're trying to appeal to your customers, but that's not sustainable.
Right.
Sustainability comes from delivery. It still comes from, that's why a foundational UX is still critical. What are their mental model? What are they trying to accomplish? What do they value? The sticky stuff.
Yep.
And AI first is not sticky. It only gets people in the moment. And then when they find out that you're no longer meeting their needs, because if you're AI first, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're no longer, eventually, because you're looking at the wrong thing, you'll eventually not meet their needs. And then when you don't meet their needs and they find out that somebody else does because they were user-centered in their work, now we've got to change. Now we've got, that's what matters. The people forgot. Design-led companies, Design Management Institute, we all know it, we've heard it, we've seen it. Companies that are user-centered, more design-focused, outperform the competition by up to 228%. That's huge. But that means that you are doing mobile also. It means that you're doing AI optimized. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
How about that for a coin phrase today? We're trying to do it at my job. We want to be AI optimized. How can AI help my customers?
Yep.
How can AI cause companies or customers to look at the work that we're doing and have a greater or associate a greater value proposition with the relationship that they have with us? That's how we use AI. Don't do AI for AI's sake. You can never, any technology that we have ever had access to, any company that did something just for technology's sake eventually fail.
Right.
Ding, ding, ding.
So we have to remember how that history is going to repeat itself. How can I have an AI optimized experience? And then now you're going to need the strategists, the real UXers, the pure UXers, not the Figma jockeys, the real UX practitioners who are looking at things from a strategic perspective and providing insights that are going to help you win. Because if you have a company, your job is to make your customers win.
Yep.
If you are a UX professional, your job is to help your company and your team win. It is not about doing things for technology's sake. It is not about doing things to, because a lot of people in UX today, they're all about self-preservation. They're not helping anybody do anything but themselves.
Right.
So helping things win, but you got to really be committed to doing that because there's so many people that are chasing the bouncing ball. They are chasing the shiny thing. They are doing what matters in the moment, and they have no real vision for how things are going to play out down the road. That's where we win. That's where we vault the discipline forward. Not listening to obviously fabricated articles that are riding on the coattails of the name of the person that supposedly wrote it. Because if you actually follow what they said, I'm going to say this, and I may end up hearing from these people, but
I mean,
but if you follow the stuff that you see in that Jacob Nielsen article about AI, you are telling people, you are basically giving away the keys to the discipline to people who don't deserve it.
on the nose. You're on the nose, sir.
You are destroying the discipline of UX is suffering today because there are too many people who have no idea who we are, no idea what they got into, no respect for it, no understanding of the fundamentals. And so they don't know anything about the history. They don't really respect the discipline. All they respect is that direct deposit they get every couple of weeks. And until people start to, you can do the right thing and still, guess what? Still get your direct deposit. You can,
Yeah.
you can still get, but we'll have the longevity. UX got where it got because of what our founding fathers and founding mothers did.
Yeah.
And now people occupy that space and don't respect it. And our
Yeah, they don't even know who they are.
Don't
some of the
know.
classics. I'm like, oh
Yes.
my God.
And destroying everything that everybody labored for.
Yeah.
They're destroying everything that Richard Saul Wurman labored for. They're destroying everything that Jacob Nielsen labored for. You got people going after Don Norman because they don't like anything he said. how about you go find something else to do instead of picking fights with Don Norman and trying to start a popularity contest? Because that's what people are doing. It's go find something that really needs help. Go and support people that not people who just bring up a topic. I today on LinkedIn, somebody, I wish I could see it. I probably have to bring up if I bring up my Snagit, I can see it. So people, they see my eyes looking somewhere. Yeah, this thing, a group of people posted today. They said, here's UX design top book. And there's, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 books on this list that they're recommending. Some 894 people like this. And some people asked me for my input on this, and I said no, because I want people to get into critical thinking. I don't want to. I'm not going to tell you something is wrong, and then they get mad at me. Well, how come you didn't tell us? I'm like, well, how come you didn't go try to figure it out?
Yeah,
I'm not helping you if I tell you everything. I'm not here to fish for you. I'm here to show you how to fish, even if that means that I'm just going to point out something as being wrong, but not tell you what it is. Because if you do have any critical thinking prowess whatsoever, you will find out what doesn't. So how about I bury this answer right into the podcast to you? Oh, well, one of the books on this list, Design of Everyday Things. I'm looking, pardon me, as I look off screen. Design of Everyday Things. We know that that's a phenomenal book. Nobody needs me to tell them that this book is fantastic. So I'm not talking about that book.
Except if you're a certain age. Like, I find that there's a group of young kids that I'm like, I have to repeat myself.
And you know what I say to those people? When you're taking something in and you find it's something a little bit of a challenge to digest, stop, get up, walk away, come back, read it again, and read it in smaller chunks if you need to. And because if you know that gold is in them var books, they would say, nothing will stop you from digging.
Yep.
And that's what people need to do, because older books are gold. Yep. Whereas a lot of newer books are trash.
Well, because they're very, what's the word? They focus on the hype, versus the other ones are more like long-term.
Substance.
Right?
Sticks to the rib.
And what's the word I'm looking for, Mr. Darren? I keep calling you Mr. Darren, Professor Darren, Senor Darren.
Character.
It's respect.
Character. Reliability. It's just genuine. But let me hit
authenticity.
You know what it is? Genuine. Classic truism.
Yes.
Right? Like there's certain things that will never change.
It'll never change. It will always, you cannot come into contact with this stuff and it not vault you forward. I'm gonna hit a few of these more of these and we'll move on to another topic. Don't make me think, oh my God, if that book's not in your library, what are you doing? Great book, 100 Things, the Susan Weinschenk book. She got a 2 or 3 books on the 100 things to help how people think. And she's looking at the cognitive psychology element of it. Please get that book if you don't have it. Lean UX, throw it out in the trash. Put it in your kitty litter box. Shred it up and put it in the kitty litter box.
We should have that list.
Then Hook, what a phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Hook is great if you don't have that book. Go to Goodreads. Darren, I can't read I can't buy all those books. Go to goodreads.com. A lot of these books are free. You don't have to buy the book. You have access to them online for free. So don't let what you can and can't spend be a determining factor, because there's ways to get these books for free. The next list, all of the next 5 books are in, and they were separated by category. All UI design. Throw all 5 of them out. Save your time. Don't waste your time. Done. So I'm not even going to touch any of those books. It doesn't matter. They're UI books. We're UX people. Don't care. Don't care. Somebody else is dedicated to that. When they're done with the UI, come and talk. I'll make sure that you haven't violated any interaction design principles. And we're good. And I respect you and your space, and you respect me and mine. I don't care about those 5 books. Throw them out. And y'all got enough people. Yeah, I'm a thought leader. And what's your title? UI, UX. You're not a thought leader. You're a thought killer. Be gone.
Go.
And that's design system. Throw them out. Oh man, I just made somebody mad. Throw out 5 of the design system book. You know, design systems, I said this on on another show, design systems became one of many ways for non-UX practitioners to sort of shoehorn their way into the UX world.
Hmm.
They do not usually, I have encountered very few design system specialists that respect the discipline, very few that respect seasoned practitioners.
Mhm.
They're usually either graphic designers or developers who are trying to find some kind of way to get into UX, but they are not really practitioners. You have every right to be in that design system space. Design systems bring value. They do. But it doesn't change the fact, and I said this before, I'm saying it again, it doesn't change the fact that what people have in design systems today is nothing more than a more formal and a contrived way of presenting what was in content management systems back in 2005.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah.
Because now you've got two people doing it then, two people, sometimes one. I managed design systems and a content management system when I worked at Comerica Bank in 2005.
Mhm.
Well, there was a few of us actually that did it. I was one of the main people who was responsible for doing my UX work and taking care of the Comerica Bank, the Comerica.com website. I was responsible for that. And I made sure that everything was in the system that could be used. Those assets could be used anywhere where anything was created. That was the same thing as what the people are doing with the design systems. But when they turned around and they took what the marketing department did as a design system, just telling you the truth. People get mad at me, but it's true. I'm not wrong because I said something somebody's not comfortable with. They took the design system
Style guides. Yeah.
Yeah, the style guides. That's it.
Yeah.
They took
Yeah.
style guides, slapped a new name on it, and said, and did we need to do this for web? Yes, we did. We did, but the wrong people get these jobs pretty often.
Yeah.
And they don't respect seasoned practitioners. They don't respect the discipline, don't understand the discipline, and don't understand the work. Again, please don't hear something I didn't say, which trolls usually do. That means you're a troll if you heard something I didn't say. Keep your design system job, keep hammering away at that design system, but know where you came from.
Yeah.
And know why you're here.
Yeah.
And realize there's a lot more to UX than just coming up with the design system. Not that it's just, but I think a lot of companies think that when they hire someone to create a design system, that then they don't have to do as much of the UX thinking. And as a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite, right? I mean, now you have all the little plug and play components, but it does take research and understanding what human beings need in order to use it the right way.
Yes, it does.
So yeah.
And if you talk to you can randomly talk to the people responsible for design systems, and they won't say any of what we just said.
They might not quite know yet, though. But who knows? It depends. Yeah.
Very few do. I have worked with a couple of people over the course of my career who were responsible for design systems, and they had a very beautiful, wonderful level of UX maturity. I remember once I said, I love what you're doing with this design system. I'm going to perform a heuristic analysis because I found out one was never done. There were things in the design system that had never been heuristically vetted out. Because people forgot, if you design something, it's designed. That doesn't mean anybody can design anything at any given time. That doesn't mean that it's the right thing.
Or good.
Yeah.
Or even useful. No.
At all.
By the way, I'm amening you because having to deal with legacy systems that weren't ADA tested, that weren't like heuristic reviewed. I'm like, that's your job. Like that is literally like, you're like, if we're going to go into the atomic level, you're supposed to literally test everything with for context.
Yep.
Right. So what you're saying is like hitting me like, oh, you get me. Like I'm like, why am I going to follow a design system that doesn't work and never had UX in it? Right. Like, and we all know them.
A design
Not
system. Yes. A design system that screams, because I like to talk about subtitles. People say and do things, and there's always subtitles. If the subtitles don't match the speech, then there's a disconnect. And when people have a design system that is not heuristically sound, it lets you know that the UX maturity is shot. And a lot of people another massive Kool-Aid pitch that goes on in a UX world is that and one of the reasons that a lot of companies have design systems is because some people believe that if your company has a design system, you have arrived.
Yes.
From a UX perspective, but it could actually be the direct opposite.
It's like UX check, design system check. We did
like,
testing check.
Yeah.
We're a UX team. Yeah.
I was so happy to see. I worked at a company, both companies that I've worked at. Well, no, let me take that back. We have a design system at our current company. They do a lot of work on that. I've worked at a company in the past where there was a design system, the one where I said, hey, I'm going to vet some things out heuristically, make sure we're heuristically sound. We don't want to, because you can be, I mean, I'm sure you've heard people say, we need to be consistent. There's such a thing as consistently wrong. You can be consistent and still be wrong. So because you're consistent doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. So they were happy to hear that, but that person was also afraid, because they were afraid. And that's where you get people, that's when you know somebody's a poser, a retrofit, or an upstart, because when you present standards and then they start shaking in their boots, when a real UX practitioner understands, a real UX practitioner is not afraid of gatekeeping, because a real UX practitioner knows that gatekeeping optimizes quality. If you don't have gatekeeping, you have anarchy. Okay, so which one is it? And isn't it funny? Isn't it ironic that a lot of the people in design system space you'll hear them, I don't like gatekeeping. Well, that's what your design keeping system is. It's a gatekeeping.
That's what it's for. Yeah. The purpose.
People have no idea what they're saying amen to and what they're screaming about sometimes. Design system is an act of gatekeeping, and it's good. So that means that deep down in the crevices of your heart, you acknowledge that gatekeeping is good, no matter what you scream on social media. So it's a good thing. I'm going to hit a couple more of these books, though, for the fun of it. So throw all the design. Well, let me, don't throw the design systems books out. However, I'm going to throw them out because I don't need them. And I can't endorse any of these books because I'm sure all these books are relatively new. And the problem with newer books is a lot of these newer books were written because somebody was trying to achieve a level of UX celebritism, not because they were trying to contribute to the UX community at large.
The intention of why to write the book is it matters. Yeah.
So I'm going to skip that. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm going to skip it because you can build a design system without knowing anything about any of these books. So if you buy it, you buy it. If you don't, you don't. Know that. And you might get one and find out that there's something good in there. That's fine. I'm not putting my name on it. So if you do, you do. You don't, you don't. But I didn't recommend any of them. And that doesn't mean that buying it, now you got a curse on you. No, that's not what that means. So,
let's clarify.
But but let's understand what really the history behind design systems is. And then go and knock the ball out the park.
Right? No, absolutely. Because it's always been around on systems thinking. I think that's the other thing too. Right?
Yes.
If you don't know how to critically think, you will want to take a shortcut.
Yeah.
And those books may be shortcuts for some people, and they may not be good.
And that's when it's a problem. That is exactly what I'm speaking to. If design system is a shortcut, something's wrong. If you think that, because people are always trying to microwave UX. If you microwave UX, you're also microwaving your career. And that means that the substances change and the molecules are being reorganized in a way that you had taken a longer route with it. You get that drift. UX research. Great books. I see Think Like a UX Researcher, one of the absolute best books on UX research on the market. I'm not even going to touch any more of these 5 books here, partially because I don't want to zoom in and I won't be able to read it because it's all dithered and everything. Pixelated. If I zoom in too much. But I do see that. Think Like a UX Researcher. If I could recommend one book on UX research, that would be one that I would recommend. It is that good. The next row is UX writing. And just move on. UX strategy. UX strategy.
I want to hear about UX writing. That's this question. We'll put a pin in it.
UX writing is The same thing that I just said about design system apply to UX writing. It was another way that some people concocted that people kept trying to create entry points into UX. Especially, remember, there were no specializations prior to 2011.
Yeah, they're not really.
None.
No.
None.
I mean, the only one I could think of is UX architect versus.
But that was just a title. I was a UX architect, and UX architect and UX designer were synonymous.
Yeah.
They were synonymous.
Yeah.
We did all the things. If you were a UX designer, matter of fact, I spearheaded the change of the title to UX architect from information architect when I worked at a creative agency in Detroit. And it was the first time you started seeing UX architect on job postings in Metro Detroit. Some people thought that where'd you get that from? I'm telling you what happened. It's amazing how you can be there, see it, do it, and people tell you it didn't happen. Well, you weren't there and I was. And now I'm telling you anyway.
You're like, I did it. I was there.
I was there. So
but
little Peter Griffinism.
UX writing. Because you're right. We used to have different stuff. And like UX, I was a UX architect all my life.
Yeah.
For the most part. And then all of a sudden it switched to UX designer. And then it switched to UX UI. Who does that?
People who don't know, people who did not know what UX was to start with. And then we listen to them, we not being us, but the discipline at large gives credence to these foible-laden declarations. And so UX writing, are there principles that apply to UX? Writing principles? Yes. Yes, there are. I learned how to do what people call UX writing. I learned how to do it in 1998.
I can see that. I can see that because that's what it was.
Yeah. We learned how to check the Flesch-Kincaid writing scale. You learn how to, our target audience maxes out. It's best if we target 7th grade reading level. So we would go in and we would look at all the copy that was provided by copywriters, not by UX writers, by copywriters, because the copywriter's job was to write. It wasn't to make sure that certain standards were being met. So the UX people would take this thing and make sure, can we reduce the number of syllables here? The call to action should say this because it's going to optimize the cognition. So I'm not saying that what some UX writers do is not legit. I'm saying that it became a flawed and a counterfeit way to enter the discipline because we were already doing it.
Yep.
We were already doing it. And there is never, I actually had one episode, I don't remember the episode number, but there was one episode where I took job postings, UX writing job postings, and broke them down and audited the job postings to show you that even UX job postings, people are not doing UX writing for 40, as they call it, for 40 hours a week. It's fabricated. It's a way to lower the bar of entry into the discipline so that people will pay attention to or put more value on the writing and give them the ability to get into UX without knowing any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
When we were already doing this work for years before somebody decided that they needed to throw this writing title on it. And that's fabricated, it's counterfeit. So 5 books on UX writing, nope, don't need it. If anything, the book called Strategic Writing for UX may be, because it's not talking about UX writing as much as it's talking about acknowledging that, okay, X number of paragraphs or sentences equals a paragraph. That's standard writing. Making sure that you're using standard grammar. That's not UX writing. It's UX.
Yeah.
To make sure you have the right call to action that makes sense. To make sure that when people, remember, you said enter in a search term and then click go, where are you going? Go where?
Yep.
So that's not UX writing, it's UX. And I remember at one company I worked at, some technical writers wanted to get into UX, which is how this stuff happened. Because somebody wants to get into UX and somebody else wants to give them a chance. And then they lower the bar. Sound familiar? And then the next thing you know, it's not a bar, it's a floodgate. And the next thing you know, unqualified people start occupying space. And then those people start dictating our trajectory, redefining who we are. Again, and I said it on that episode. if you're a UX writer today, please don't say Darren Hood thinks I should be fired. I never said any such thing.
Well, let's
But that's where they go. But
it's like he doesn't want us to exist. It's like, no, what he's saying is we took away the gate. There's no gates anymore.
That's it.
We just have arrows pointing to, hey, what are you? Okay, let's make it something that could do. Graphic design is now UI UX.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or product design.
Product design.
That's
misleading.
misleading.
What do you think about that? Okay, so let's talk
product
about that.
design. Yeah.
Product design. People saying product designer.
In most instances, it's nothing but a glorified visual designer. Then they will give the person some UX responsibility on average. They'll give the person some UX responsibility. That person thinks they're in UX, and to them, I was trying to get into UX. So again, another lowered bar of entry. It's really not a bar, it's a floodgate. And then you have this massive rush of people that come in and occupy space. And that makes me think again about companies like Shopify. Because Shopify is funny. We're not going to call our people UX anymore. When were you calling them UX people? When they have like 1,000 people on their UX team, because they called it a UX team. But if you went and looked, there were not a lot of people did not have UX titles. They were product designers. And it was assumed that they were doing UX, but they were really glorified visual designers. I knew somebody who worked at that company who had never done UX a day in their life and went straight into a staff product design role. I went in because I saw them in staff. They're definitely going to be interested in me. So I applied and I interviewed, and I knew I was done in the interview because the person who was interviewing me, the manager, who only had 4 years of development work, who had never done UX a day in their life, not for a minute in their life, was scared to death of me when we talked about how to do the work. And so a lot of qualified people are displaced. They either won't hire qualified people, they hire qualified people, and then they try to like misrepresent who you are. They sabotage your work. They sabotage your presentations. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me in the course of my career. They try to make you look bad because they want to build this narrative that, oh, you're the guy who said, or the gal who said that you did UX for all this time, but look at what I found about what you were doing. So they fabricate this thing. So it becomes this formalized character assassin routine that people do. The time that I did wireframes at one company, because I'm trying to be a team player. I'm trying to help out. So I volunteered to do some wireframes, and then it didn't hit me till after I volunteered. You folks do know what wireframes are. You know what I'm going to deliver, right? Oh, yeah. And the way they said that, I went, oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
You could hear the creepy music in the background already. It's like,
you start hearing Jaws. It's the Jaws anniversary, right? You start
yeah. Which
you already know what's getting ready. And sure enough,
you just stepped right in it. Yeah.
Because to them, the terms wireframe and mockup were interchangeable.
Yeah.
So when they saw the wireframe, they didn't meet with me so I could walk them through and help them understand all the whys.
Wow.
They took the wireframes, they went straight to the client. And because one of the people was trying to assassinate my character, and this was an opportunity to make me look bad. So they went straight to the client who had made this record. We want our site to look like this particular university over here. The students at your university and the students at that university have two completely separate personas. Why would you want to appeal to their, on top of the fact that their designs were terrible? Because non-design people, they have no understanding of what a Frankenstein is. They don't know what constitutes a Frankenstein. So when they like this navigation and the way they did those pictures, and then the way that they brought in these other things over here, and they don't realize that's Frankenstein. A head from this person, a foot from this person, and an arm from that person is a Frankenstein.
And it's never pretty. It's never pretty. It doesn't work well.
That's what you got.
Yeah,
that's what you got. And people don't understand that that's what they're doing. They need a scientist to do it right. And again,
they do.
if anybody designs anything, something's going to show up in that browser. But it doesn't the browser is good at interpreting code. The browser does not critique anything that it processes. And people don't understand that. And so,
Yep.
this is a science. And when people understand that this is a science, they'll have more respect for it. You know, we're a ways off. I'm still counting my time. I'm on the back end of the mountain.
Well, but you know what though? What I almost want to know how you got. Okay, why? Okay, how did you get into design? And I kind of know it because I've been following your podcast for a while, right? But what I want to know is like, what made you stay in design? Because after a while, like what we started off with, like I would say we because I've only been doing it like since 2006, whatever, completely day and night, right? Where like you're right. I was more of a generalist. I had more fun in the field. I had more to do.
Yep.
I got to research people. Like I literally got to hang out with the user, co-create with them. Now that's nearly impossible unless I'm actually a researcher within a research org, right? I'm not allowed to talk to people, right? And it's kind of like Sam. It's I mean, I get to talk to them when I do my own project.
Right.
I'm doing a loop, right? Where it's like when I'm doing my own health apps because like you, Professor Darren, I'm trying to get a hold of my own biohack, right? So I want to know all that. I mean, you kind of started that trend, but that being like, I'm a designer, so I'm going to use my own design skills to create my own way of tracking it, right?
Yeah.
So I love that part, but then I find myself kind of dreading the day-to-day now because we're so specialized and additionally, like now pigeonholed, where it's like, like, I don't know, I almost feel like, yeah, I can write and I can do research, but I'm literally just told you could do this much, right? But I could do this much, but I am only told this much. And then because it's only this much, politics. Half my life is politics. Not even designing. So, so I kind of want to know from your point of view, how do you keep yourself like content in a very grim world, right? Like
excellent choice of words.
Just to be
excellent choice of words to call it content. Because happiness is not realistic.
Okay.
I know some people go, what? Right.
Fair.
Contentment means that we have a degree of satisfaction knowing that there's certain things we simply will not be able to achieve, whether it's time, budget, personnel. And that's why, as you were saying that, the thing that hit me is we need to revisit what an MVP is, what it truly is. So what is viable? I fell in love with the discipline, decided not to go after a master's in instructional design at Boise State. I just deep sixed all those ideas, went completely, fully in this direction, never looked back. But it's because I love achieving viability. Because that's the key. So I haven't changed. So I achieved viability in 2003, 2004. When I was walking by some people at OnStar, I can say it because I'm long gone. I always joke about how sometimes you go to the restroom, but you really didn't need to go to the restroom. You need to be at the right place at the right time. And I was coming back from the restroom. And if I had not gone to the restroom when I did, if I had not gone to do the little biological thing when I did, I would have missed out on one of the greatest moments in my career. I'm on my way back to my seat at the GM building in downtown Detroit, and I overhear, and I used to be an umpire, and they used to call me, they call me rabbit ears because I hear everything. And I heard, while I'm walking, I heard this whole conversation. I never broke stride, but I heard everything. And these people were saying, you know what, we already signed the lease. We've already interviewed and hired all the people, and we're trying to open our first offshore call center, and the Philippines won't let us ship an OnStar equipped vehicle down there. What do we do? I heard all of these details, as I'm coming up the hallway, because the restrooms and the rinsing were like in the middle of each tower. And so you have to go to the middle, and I could hear everything as I'm coming up this hallway. Then I come and make the turn, and my desk is near where these people are. And I knew who they were. And we already had a relationship already. And I said, and I got an idea that fast. I said, what if I told you, so they won't let you ship an OnStar equipped vehicle, right? Right, they won't. So what do we do? We already have an opening date. What do we do? And it's the strategic mindset. And I said, what if? I think these new people, they need to learn about the history of OnStar, right? Yeah. These people, they need to know how to use the system and need to be able to help customers know how to use the system, right? And that's why you're shipping an OnStar equipped vehicle, so they can actually use OnStar. What if I told you that I could build an actual simulator, an OnStar simulation, that you wouldn't be able to know whether they wouldn't be able to tell whether they were in a vehicle or not. That's how good of a simulation. I had never built a simulation. It was just something that I got, and it just hit me. And I pitched it right there. We delivered. It was called the OnStar 360. And I just found out recently that they used that thing up until like 2020.
Wow.
They were using that thing for over 15 years. That's how they train people. And it was shipped to other offices. So other people around OnStar were using this simulation and this. I still have CDs.
And probably a lot less expensive too than shipping OnStar, right, all around to different offices.
Saved a ton of money. Help people understand what the business was about. Help people with the orientation process. Help build confidence.
Yeah,
people today don't know I impacted their life because when they call OnStar, person that they're speaking to learn how to use it, learn how to answer a question because of a solution that I rolled out. By learning what was going on, understanding what the user experience was around all of that, understanding how far-reaching all of those things fit into play. The OnStar representative, the person driving the car who had the accident, who had the flat tire, or whatever was going on. I understood all of the moving parts.
Because you were immersed in that space. And then the opportunity came up, but the opportunity was not in your cube. It wasn't in a meeting room. I think the opportunities sometimes are at the cookouts on the weekends. When your C whatever O comes in and says, my niece was talking about X, Y, and Z, and I think we should do it for this product. I kind of think like if we were there at the cookout, we'd be able to go like, and you know what? And then we could steer it to, or at least hear it and know what to anticipate coming in on the Monday or Tuesday, right? But yeah, I think some of it is, like you said, what did you call that kind of hearing?
Rabbit
hearing. Rabbit ears. And then also being able to entrepreneurially or intrapreneurially, whatever they call it, think through like what could be the what if. We have the how might we. It's important for us to have the what if. And I always like the other one too that I've thought of recently, which was what next? When you get to a certain point, you go, where can this go next? And sometimes you could pivot a product to go in a much better direction. Yeah.
And that's the strategic mindset that I speak of. That UX, I'm about to redo a talk that I did in San Francisco years ago about how UX is actually a leadership function. When you do it, but people keep trying to turn us into UI people. As soon as you become UI only, you're no longer a strategic partner.
Yeah.
You're no longer a leader. You're exactly what you were 5 years before you heard about UX.
Yep.
A visual designer.
Someone they can consult with when they need it, they think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because UX has such a phenomenal value prop, but only when we do UX. And I got to give the shout out too to this last list on this UX strategy book. Debbie Levitt's Customers Know You Suck.
It's a great book.
Great stuff. Inspired, great stuff. J.E. Levy's UX strategy book. Great stuff. Articulating Design Decisions by Tom Griever. There's a lot of great stuff. I love the story, even though it's a story that he got from somewhere else. But the hairy arms, the way that Disney used to manipulate stuff to get people to approve certain animations or certain drawings, so they don't want them to pick this version of the dwarf, so we're going to make their arms hairier. And how it's unethical to do that because some people try to influence decisions by adding something they know people don't want. So that kind of stuff. So a lot of strategic stuff. My strategic masterclass I deliver for South Africa is on YouTube. It's got hundreds of views. But we are strategists. And it's if we lose strategy, UX loses its superpower. Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. We had a great conversation. I really had a ball. I love talking to Lou. Love talking to Yaddy. Really, it was a long conversation, and it's going to be split up into 3 different episodes. So you just saw part 1. We hope you really enjoyed that. We hope you found it enlightening. We hope you found it actually encouraging. It's great to be able to understand where we are in UX today and to have a clear understanding of how we need to move forward. The things we shared about AI, the things we shared about UX writing, the things we shared about how you deal with when somebody is presenting the equivalent of a Frankenstein design request to you. We have to understand those. We have to identify them. We have to navigate them so we can make sure that we bring value and drive wins for our users and for our business and for our teams alike. So hope you enjoyed, again, this part of the session. 2 more parts are forthcoming, but we're going to go ahead and wrap up here today. So until next time, this is Darren Hood, the host of The World of UX, wishing you all the best. And until next time, happy UXing, everybody.